All right, so let me type it in AutoCAD and use the AutoCAD 3D template. All right. Also, once you get started, make sure 3D Basics is on. You just click the little gear down here. Should be 3D Basics. Once you get in, you'll notice that you have a little compass over here, a 3D compass. So if you click this edge, you can shift your, you can look around. There's an object I was working on earlier. So ignore that for now. We're gonna make that later. So these edges up here, you can adjust your appearance, but that thing's messing me up. So let me get rid of that guy. There we go. Anyway. So back to the beginning here. I'm gonna leave it just in case. Hopefully it doesn't cause any issues, but stuff there. Yeah. I think it is causing issues. Yeah, ACAD 3D. No, wait a bit. I decided to change the grid a little bit. I use color 155, which is like a blue. I figure that's not too dark that annoys us, and it's a little more pronounced than the original light black or gray. But I like it. I recommend number 152, 155. Let me show you actually. If you go to options, go to colors under display, you can change you can do two. If you're in 2D, well, you mess with the 2D, right? But if we're doing 3D, you can change that to just go to the major grid lines, minor grid lines. So I put 155 for both. You choose whatever you like, but I kind of like this guy. Then just apply it and it'll work. But anyway, so let's see here. Conceptual. So let's just make a sphere. It doesn't matter where. Let's make a sphere here. And I think I'm going to change that to conceptual. No. Let's pick a different color. Yeah, there you go. Shaded with edges, regular shaded. Let's do the edges. I kind of like how that looks. Just for fun. Just make a sphere. Click over here, pick a sphere. If you don't have this menu box or this ribbon here or the options, make sure you click the gear and turn it on to 3D Basics. Then use the drop-down menu up in the upper left, choose your sphere, and just make one. Doesn't matter how big it is. I just made a random ball here. Once you've done that, I want you to choose cylinder and just kind of click in the middle there of the sphere and make your disc. So there's my disc, and I can choose the thickness, make it close to 0.5 thickness. So now if you look at it from the top or from the front, you see that the disc is going straight through the sphere. It's not perfectly in the middle. I mean, you could do that using let me show you object snaps, but no, you don't have to do right in the middle. Also, before we go any further, I just remembered something. Go right click the snap settings here And make sure the adaptive grid is turned off. This might mess with this. And then just hit OK once you uncheck it. I'm just doing that earlier, so. Okay. Everyone cool with the sphere and the disk? No issues so far? It's nothing crazy, but if you have any problems or something not working, let me know now. Okay. So I want to go through these functions here. Let's do subtract. So if I choose a subtract function and pick the first object, enter, second object, enter. Notice how it subtracted the second one. So it removed everywhere that they intersected and the last and the second object that I clicked. So if you want to kind of slice sections off of an object, you can make certain I guess certain 3D shapes and kind of merge them together and then just subtract what you want. So like if I want to carve out this hemisphere here, right, or the top hemisphere or this quarter of the sphere, quarter sphere, right? So you can just put a sphere that connects right there and you can delete it using the right radius and whatnot. Or if you want to remove chunks or squares or holes, make holes, you can just use a cylinder, connect it, and then subtract. So now I'm going to undo that. So now if I were to do it the other way, say I want to choose subtract, choose the disk first, and then the sphere. So each time the sphere will create a hole in the disk. So creating a ring. So if I need to make a hole, you can use spheres or cylinders to eat away or subtract from 3D objects. So right now they are currently two different objects, right? So, well, we'll do that in a second, but now let's check out this function, the intersect. If I choose intersect, doesn't matter which one I select first enters, oops, gotta select both actually. Select both and then press enter once you've used the intersect. So intersect and select both pieces. So now it deletes everything except for where those two things intersected. So this gives you many combinations as to how to cut away parts to any object, okay, using geometrical shapes. So you can do that with any of these shapes, the cones, the pyramids, the wedges, whatever, okay. Is there any questions about the subtract and intersect? So currently there's still two objects. So when you want to combine the objects, you got to hit union and select both objects and then press enter. So now when I select it, they have merged into one object. Separating the two objects are a real pain. So don't merge something unless you're sure they will stay together forever, okay? So if I'm not gonna merge them, if I'm gonna want to do some other stuff, move things around or subtract, intersect, whatever, do not use union unless you're sure, okay? All right, so I'm gonna go over a different tool. So now I want to talk about the press pull. This is very handy when you want to hand draw something in 2D, see, and then you can push it forward and create a 3D object. So like if you make that L in that picture, I can force it outward, which is pretty cool for like custom shapes. But you're going to want to use polyline whenever you make shapes, because remember, whenever you connect all the parts for a polyline design, or you make a whatever design using polylines, then it's considered all to be one object. So when I press pull that thing, it's going to make a 3D object of the entire part. But if I use the line command, let me show you the difference. It's for fun here. Turn on snap just because. So I'll just make a little shape here, whatevs, right? If I wanted to press pull this shape, notice how, let me turn off the snap now. Yeah, you get, it kind of gets one edge, so it can be kind of annoying. Sometimes you can kind of force it to get the whole thing. There we go. So you could do the line command, but what I recommend is to use the polyline because it's always going to be one object once I close it off, right? So if I make some whatever design, doesn't matter, right? And press pull this guy. So it's automatically one thing, okay? So you can create 2D objects and then push it through to create a solid. That's pretty handy. You can also hold down the mouse wheel to drag around, to look around, instead of using this all the time. You can also zoom out with the mouse wheel if you have one. If you don't have a mouse wheel, you can use the hand if you're struggling to look around, just like grab. Okay. And this will change the perspective you're looking at, of course. All right. Any questions on the intersect, subtract, union, or press pull? Does that make sense? Okay. Copy will work the same way it did in 2D. So if I copy this object, right? Just press, I'll just choose that base point. Can make a bunch of spheres if I want to, I guess, for no reason. So if you want to make copies of an entire thing, you're going to want to merge it together. You might be able to select all of it and then copy. Let's see who does it. Yeah, so we don't have to forcefully merge them to make my alien UFOs here. Okay. So we also have some other functions I want you to play with when you get a chance. Extrude is similar to press pull, but I think it works on like 3D objects instead of a 2D. Presses or pulls a bounded area. Well, this one creates a 3D solid or surface by extruding. So yeah, they're almost the same. But anyway, I'll let you mess with that later. Let's move on to something else. Okay, so let's make that a wedge that I had out earlier. And practice using different tools here. So first thing I want you to do let's see, switch to box. And let me see if I can find the spots here. Oh, before we do that, make sure now we're actually going to use exact measurements. So type grid, make sure the units are 1. Okay. And let's see here. Yeah, that should be good enough. Snap will be 0.5. That should be all right. If it gets in the way of going in 3D directions, we'll just toggle on and off, okay? So once that's on, hit the box function, go to 1, 1, and then make a box all the way till 5, 4. So that'll be about here. So here's 5, 4, all the way to 1, 1. So now at this point, it's gonna ask for height. So before you type the height, make sure that you're already going upward. You see how I'm already going up? That's when you type the number 1.5. Because if I'm going downward and then type 1.5, is going to assume I meant downward. So there's no negative numbers. It just assumes however you're oriented, that's the direction it's going to go. So 1.5. There we go. So there's my rectangle. Okay. So now let's make a wedge. Let's see. 1 second. I'll let you make this box first. Let me look at my notes here. Forgot how big the wedge should be. Yeah, 4 by 3. Okay. All right, so choose the wedge function. I want you to click the lower. So before we do anything, notice how the faces highlight when I have a function turned on. So when I have the wedge function going, right, I can highlight the faces. Look at how the origin shifts, right? You see that? Kind of like when we were doing the isometric drawing, depending where your what's it called? ISO plane was set up, that would change the cursors, but now it changes in real time when you're hovering over a different object. So if I hover here and then click, it's gonna start drawing the wedge from this plane, based off this plane. If I highlight this and then draw, it's gonna be based off that plane. So to make sure you don't highlight it, just click down here with the wedge function. Click all the way out here. Actually, don't click, just get all the way over here and then go out. Yeah, 3 by 4. So 4 outward, 3 width, 4 length. Yeah. And then the height will be, let's see here, a height of, I think it's going to be 3. Yeah, 3. There we go. There's my wedge. Okay. Now, you got any issues drawing the rectangle or the wedge before I go any further? Okay. So go ahead and merge them together. Let's do union. So, oops, select both, enter. There you go. So choose a union function and then select both and merge them. The wedge should be 4 in the X direction, 3 in the Y direction. And then a height of 3. I'm sorry, yeah, height of 3. Alrighty, let's adjust our view here a little bit. This corner here would be good. My origin's right there. So I'm going to build a rectangle based on this perspective here, the side wall here. And then I'm going to move it right in the middle and try to create like a little depth here, like a cutout. I'm not sure what I mean. So let's go to rectangle or box, whatever. So I'm going to use this to change my axis. Click here, then go all the way out here and create a height of, let me double check here, height of 2. Oops, let me do that again. There we go. My snaps are being weird. Height of 2. Oh man. There you go. Let's just click it myself, being weird. Just go all the way to the edge there. Make sure it's height of 2 and a thickness of 0.5. Okay. This should look like this. Anyone have any issues making this rectangle? So let's go ahead and click down here and switch to shades of gray. So that way we can see everything a little better, more detailed. When we start moving things inside shapes, it'll be easier. Once you've made this, if you click it, you'll see the XYZ axis appear. So I want you to move it right in the center. And if you can't, we gotta turn off snap and see if I can get that. I don't know if it's on actually. Make sure it's on. Geometric center. Turn on the centers on, see if we can get it. It's not turning on. There it is. So use the midpoint. So the midpoint should work. We don't need the centers right now. Any issues making this and moving it to the center? If you just click the object, just highlight the object, you'll have the axes up here. To just move it along the green axis, which I believe is the Y, and just drag on the Y axis, and you can start moving it. To just click there. So I'm moving on the Y. If I click the purple one, I'll move on the Z, etc. That's yeah. Just get right in the middle. Now, I'm going to want you to shift it 0.5 units downward using the Z axis. So I'm going to move it down here 0.5. So it's right inside. So I'm going to use subtract and at some point to create a little hole there. Give me a moment. Let me double check the measurements. Oops, did my thing freeze? Biscuits. Yes, it did. So first time it's happened. It's just rule of thumb. When you're making a 3D design, you want to save regularly because it likes to crash. So let me see if I can get it back up. 1 second. How it is, I guess. Okay. All right, so I'm going to remake the box. Turn this guy off. So box. There's 1154 was over here somewhere. Yeah. It's at a height of 1.5. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to redo the wedge. And we're at a height of 3, I believe. Yeah. Okay. Combine these guys again. Oops. Union and then select. Alrighty, I'm going to remake that box and hope it doesn't crash on me again. And I need to switch to shades of gray. Turn off snap. Put it right in the middle. There it is. Midpoint. All right. Then we said shifted downward. About 0.5. Oops, this should be a length of 2. There we go. Maybe I'll do that. Things all screwy now. Dang it. Let me start over. Okay. So that perspective. Okay, so it should be 2. I'm struggling here with my stuff's turned off. Okay. Make sure it's right on there. Yeah, it's still not coming out. Okay. It's a lot harder when I don't have my cursor with me. For some reason, turned off on me. The camera better turn it back on. To look it up later. There we go. Finally, biscuits. All right, I think we're good now. Jesus. Okay, so it should be 2 units high, but starting off the base. So I'm right on there now. 0.5 thickness. So now I'm going to shift it down 0.5. Finally. All right. So now eventually I'm going to cut that piece out. So what I want you to do next, I think I've caught up to you guys now, is to copy this object, press enter. I'm going to choose the end here. Actually, let's pick a different base point. Let's pick the beginning. Enter. So copy, pick the end here, and then just slide it all the way through until you get to the end. There you go. So merge these guys by doing union. Enter. Then subtract this. So now I should create that little dip here, little canal. Okay. All right. Now, let's practice drilling a hole through the face. So I'm going to use a cylinder as my to make a hole right straight through the middle. But first, kind of need to figure out where is the center. So what you can do, you use a line command. So find that middle there and kind of create a little reference. Right, so there's my line that I made. So I'm going to use that guy to find my center easily, right? So once I have that centered, I want you to make that cylinder. Let's see here. A radius of 0.25 and make it about 3 of depth. There it is. So I want you to shift that all the way down to the bottom. There you go. So now it went through, right? Through the face. Now notice when we were making that cylinder, we had changed the plane, right? Okay, so now I want you to subtract that piece there to make my drill hole. So there it is, perfect. So it went right through. You guys have any issues making the drill hole? Or the slice through the middle? Okay. So now let's mess with the fillet. Or actually the chamfer. So from this perspective, let's chamfer these edges just to see how it works. So do the drop down right here, chamfer or whatever. Click this guy. Select the edge. So I'll select this guy. Choose distance. It sounds a little easier to deal with. So for the first distance, choose 0.5 and then 0.75. Enter, enter. So there's my little chamfer. And then do the other one with spacebar. So there we got that chamfer done. Okay, so now let's test out how the fillet works. Your fillet. So choose fillet edge. I'm going to fillet these guys right here, kind of give it a rounded edge. So the radius for that, make it 0.25, enter, enter. Whoops. Try this again. Radius 0.25. There we go. Perfect. So there is my smooth edge there for the fillet. Got my chamfers done, drill hole. I think that's all they had in our example in the book. Now, before we go any further, you guys have any questions on what we did, like how we made the objects, how we merged them, how we cut pieces out? Does that make sense? All right. So the next thing I want you to notice or mess with is called the, where's that thing? things in my way. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, so the move gizmo up here. See how if you click the drop down, there's rotate gizmo, scale gizmo. Move is the one that we've been using. You know how I was moving the rectangle back and forth on different axes? So that one's pretty good, the standard one. Standard gizmo that you'll be using. The rotate is pretty cool too. So if I choose this object, I can rotate on any axis, the Z axis, right? You can rotate on the Z, etc. Right. Now the scale is exactly what you think. It's gonna blow it up in on different axes. So I can blow it up in the Z direction or shrink it. I can blow it up in the Y direction or X direction. Anyway, so these would be very helpful when you're doing stuff as well. A lot of the commands will be similar to the stuff you've done in 2D, but you can have a lot of new stuff to mess with. If you can't see, I recommend working in shades of gray. Now you can also try 2D wireframe if you need to see through it, but that can get kind of difficult. There are wireframes right here, but I think shades of gray is the best one just for working because it's clear. Anyway, you guys have any questions or issues? All right, let me open up your, I think this will be the last homework because the rest will be extra credit if you want to do it. 1 second. Okay, so I think next week is finals week, so there's no more classes after this week. And we're pretty much done with all the lectures and examples. So what I need you to do is choose, if you haven't already, please choose your project and let me make sure that I okayed it and you're good to go. But I need you to start working on that as soon as possible. I'm hoping to get all the homeworks done by today and then, or tomorrow at the latest, and then just spend the rest of the semester and some of next week doing the project because the class technically ends on the 7th, I believe. I need to double check that. So I think you're only going to have the 5th or 6th to turn in the final project. So this is the week that I need you to focus on designing that, okay? So if you haven't picked one already, please pick one as soon as possible and let me know.